3. Hi, everybody. It's
Hello,
time
everybody.
for another wellness session. Please welcome my co-host, Sir Isaac, and
Hello.
who is the real professional and knows what he's talking about. And I just play one on TV.
No, we're a team. We're a team.
There you go. We're a team. I do one part, he does the other part.
Yeah,
We've learned to meld it together.
that's it.
Hello, Cecilia. Hi, Joyful, and
Hello.
hi, Shaw Woman. And
Oh,
so this episode's winning topic was effective communication. And since most of us online here, that's what we're doing is communicating with everybody. I think it's kind of appropriate that that's the topic for this time. And we're now out of topics to pick from. So Isaac and I are going to start beating our brains against the wall. And if y'all have got any topics you would like to see us cover, put it in the chat, or better
please,
yet, wait till the show's over and come back and put it in the comments section. That
please.
way I can go in and I can save it. And so, Sir Isaac, take it away. I'll let you take over at
Okay.
this point and say your
Okay.
bit. We'll get rolling
Okay.
in there. And
Well, so far as communication is concerned, what I've come to believe and understand is that if you can engage a person in conversation, you can, I guess, accomplish goals or because sometimes based on social cues, if a person is behaving in a certain way or if they seem aloof, we will make up things in our head based on our experiences.
yeah,
And we may not check it out with the person. We should always say, is everything going okay? You may not be able to do it in the moment, but you can do it later. Or maybe if you're that person that people don't seem like they don't want to talk to you. Sometimes I ask people, uh, how could I have said that differently? Because
yeah,
really, I
that's a
think the
good one.
whole thing is like if we can engage a person in conversation, we can solve a lot of problems. And what I uh, passed on to Sherry, and what she can probably give to you, is what I've used in the past with individuals in therapy.
Yeah,
That's called a communication loop. Sometimes we called it a reality worksheet, where basically you ask the person, "Can I share something with you? And will you just listen?" And you may
right.
say, you may, and they'll walk you through it. You may say, and it seems awkward in the beginning until you get used to it, and you can sort of use your own words. You may say, "When I heard
I'm
you
going to pop it
say,"
up on the screen so they can look at it.
okay,
And there we go.
there, okay, great. When I heard you say, um, you were done, what I thought was you were upset. And from that, I felt frustrated because I put a lot of energy into this project. And what I would like you to do in the future is, whatever that is be more open. If you are in disagreement with something, tell me up front. And what you ask you write this down, or you can have it in your head, but you would write it down just as practice and asking a person, could I share something with you? And would you allow me to say it without interrupting? And give yourself some time to think about it before you come back to me and share your thoughts. And you actually let them come back and share their thoughts without, uh, and just listen to them. And say, for instance, if they come back and they're maybe sarcastic or uh, angry, that's still a lot of information for you, that you know how to deal with the person. So that's what I would say. For me, communication is a big thing. And
Absolutely.
it didn't always it wasn't always like that. It was like I was trying to figure out how I could engage less in conversation with people. But when I started to realize that I could solve a lot of problems, and say, for instance, if somebody says, I don't like you and I don't like being around you, I got some information. I don't have to feel hurt about it. I don't have to do anything to the person about it. I can just detach. And
Yeah.
is a self-care tool. So that's what I would encourage you to do, is to learn to have a what we call a feedback loop communication loop, or a reality worksheet. Learn to engage individuals in conversation and be willing to hear whatever they say. Just be willing to hear what they say. That gives
Yeah. Let's see if
information.
I can make this a little bigger here.
I
Okay,
think,
that might help a little bit.
yeah, I think, yeah, I think that's,
Okay, that way they can see it on screen. Because some people watch this on their phone,
right.
as I know
Okay,
I've done
okay.
in the past. And you're
Yes.
looking at it, you're like, I can't read what that says.
Hmm.
Guys, when I get to work tomorrow, I'll be able to scan these documents that Isaac sent me into PDF format, and I will go
Hmm.
in and attach it to the description box.
Oh,
So if
great.
you want to go in and then download it and print it out yourself, you can.
Hmm.
I just don't have the ability to do that from home.
Hmm.
And so when I get to work Monday, I'm going to scan these, and
Hmm.
then I can attach it. And then that way it's
Hmm.
available if y'all want to come back,
Hmm.
say tomorrow afternoon or Tuesday,
Hmm.
and print these out, or just save it on your computer, as a
Hmm.
document file. Something
Hmm.
you can look at if you run into an incident where communication breakdown is happening,
Right.
and you don't know how to scan that bridge.
Right.
This might give you some ideas of maybe how to phrase a sentence or a question,
Hmm.
or how to look at the situation so
Hmm.
that you know that it's not necessarily you that they may be upset with,
Hmm.
but it could very well be that just, the language I'm using heard by someone else, and they're thinking it means something totally different.
Right.
Which is another breakdown of communication, is making sure you're
Hmm.
on the same page,
Hmm.
talking the same language. I mean,
Yes.
okay, granted, we're both speaking
Mhm.
English, but that doesn't mean we're talking the same language.
That's true.
So it's learning. Um, I know one of the things that I learned years ago was when somebody asks you something or makes a declarative statement, you repeat it back to them the way you understood what they were saying, and said, okay, so what you're saying is you want me to do fill in the blank.
Uh-huh.
Do I have that correct? And then
Yes.
that way they know right from the get go, yeah, okay, we're on the same page. You know exactly what it is I'm talking about.
Hmm.
Or they can step back and go, whoa, wait, that's not what I said. That's not what I
Hmm.
meant. And
Right.
then you can break it down a little
Hmm.
further and get a clearer understanding of what information is trying to be shared. Um,
Yes. Yes. And that's clarifying the communication so that you know, like you say, exactly where the person is coming from. Because I've sat with people before, like I've done groups, and tried to explain something to someone in the group. and they just stared at me like they didn't get it. And I would
Yeah.
say, does anyone else know? Does anyone else understand what I'm trying to say? And I may have somebody says yes. I said, can you share it with them? And it would almost sound like they said exactly the same thing that I said. And the person said, oh, I get it now. And I'm like,
Yeah.
hmm, that's a real thing.
It's just like I've had people who want to start a channel say, well, there's already so many readers. What's one more gonna do?
Uh-huh.
Will I even reach anybody? And my response has always been, you may be the one voice that someone out there is waiting to hear. If
Yes.
they don't hear and understand it from me or from Linda
Mm-hmm.
G or from
Yes.
Marina or from anybody else that we know
Mm-hmm.
online,
Mm-hmm.
because just the way we talk, the way we phrase things just doesn't resonate with them.
Right.
But
Right.
you could get online and say the same thing in
Yes.
your own way, and the light
Mm-hmm.
bulb's going to go off for them, and they're going to be like, "Oh, I get it."
Uh-huh.
And so it's, to me, it's never,
Mm-hmm.
there's never an excuse not to do it
Mm-hmm.
once you get over that fear of
Mm-hmm.
having your face in front of lots of people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you learn to lay in a stock of makeup that you normally never wear, so you don't look washed out on screen. Um, but it's learning
Something
how to
new.
rephrase things,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes my voice may not be the right voice for that
Mm-hmm.
person,
Mm-hmm.
but someone else comes along and can say the same thing, even say it in the same way, but
Mm-hmm.
there's going to be something about that other person that connects with them.
Yes. Yes.
And uh, I know counselors run into this a lot
Mm-hmm.
with trying to work with a client, and you just don't seem to have a breakthrough with them.
Mm-hmm.
You get them to somebody else, boom, and you see an instant change
That's it.
just
That's true.
because everything changes. And I've seen that happen with friends.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
um, um,
Well,
it's
this communication loop, our reality worksheet, it helps us to say difficult things to people or important things. And the the if you can just read what's on the paper, but what we'll tend to do is we tend to try to explain to people. We try to explain it so that they can understand it from the very beginning. But if you are careful and you just write out the words and keep it simple and keep it short, they'll understand it.
yeah.
And
Oh
and it's
yeah,
like you said too, ask them to repeat it back. What did you hear me say?
yeah, yeah.
Mhm,
And get in the habit of doing that when somebody's asking you a
mhm,
question or saying something to you
mhm,
that they're expecting a response.
mhm,
You
mhm,
repeat it back to them and say, "Okay, well, I'm understanding you're
mhm,
asking me
mhm,
fill in the blank. Do I
mhm.
have that right?"
Right.
And
Mhm,
if you do, then great, you can go from there and answer. And if you don't, then that gives them a chance
mhm,
to rephrase what it is they're trying to say to you so that
mhm.
you will understand
Yeah.
them. And that can make a huge difference as
Y
far as from a counseling aspect of being able to reach that patient,
Mhm,
to a spouse or family member or
mhm,
friend scenario where
mhm,
instead of having an argument over it,
mhm,
everybody gets a chance to, okay, wait, that's not
mhm,
what I meant, and you get a
mhm,
chance to rephrase it,
mhm,
and that can solve a lot of angst and a
mhm,
lot of miscommunications
mhm.
in my book. Um,
Yeah, me too. And one thing that I will do when I have to say something like this, in the beginning, you may have to write it down, but after a while, you'll be able, once you practice it enough, you feel
mhm,
comfortable with yourself. I I, I say to myself, and this comes from Gary Zukov. Uh, I try to create harmony, cooperation, sharing, sharing, and reverence for life, reverence
right.
for the other person. So if I put that in my mind before I start to communicate with someone, it's the guidance that I need to, so that I can be able to say, if somebody says, "Oh, you're just trying to hurt my feelings," I already know that that wasn't my intention, and I can say that.
Right. Right.
And I think that's what we need to do uh, in the beginning. We have to know what our intention is, if it is to clarify, because some people think it's
Exactly.
like, gotcha, you're trying to get me. And if we don't clarify it in our head, our intention, before we speak to someone, we start to think, well, did it sound like that? Did it come off like that? We can clarify all that before we get to the person.
Yeah, exactly. And it can make a big difference
Hmm.
as far as opening doors for somebody else to be able to walk through their issues and
Right.
come out the other side,
Hmm.
to just having a better rapport with your kids, with your
Hmm.
spouse, with your
Right.
friends.
Right.
um
Hmm.
being able to sit down and talk it out,
Hmm.
and understand,
Uh-huh.
truly understand what the other person's trying to say to you. Hi, Diana. um uh Hi, Elaine. And so, we got us a nice little group in here this
Yes.
this this afternoon. So yeah, it's very important to make sure that what you're saying is being understood by the person you're
Hmm.
talking to,
Right.
as well as clarifying for yourself and for them that
Hmm.
what they're saying back to you
Hmm. Hmm.
is being understood in the best context.
Hmm.
Um,
And
uh,
there's another thing I'd like to touch on too, Sherry. Like, if you've ever been in conversation with a person who just bulldozes over you, like rapid fire questions, and then they say what they think it is going on, or it's like you're trying to, keep up. You're on defense in the conversation.
right.
You can
Right. Yeah,
slow.
they ask a question, and before you can draw breath to answer,
Yes.
they're answering the question for you and
Oh,
asking the next
mhm.
question. And it's like, you see reporters do that to politicians
Yes.
and celebrities and stuff all the time.
That's a good example, a wonderful example. Do you know what you can do when you are in a situation like that with a person? Try it, Sherry. This is what you do: is, say for instance, somebody's rapid firing at you, pause 3 seconds before you answer their question.
Right.
Count it in your head. One, and they're
Yeah.
gonna say, "Did
Yeah.
you hear me? What I said?" I say, "Wait a minute. I'm trying to think about it. You're so much further ahead of me. Let me
Yeah.
think about it." And you
Let
go
me
back to your
organize my thoughts so I can
right,
give you the best answer
but
that
you
you'll
you
understand what I'm saying.
but you purposely count 3 in your head. They don't
Yeah.
like the pause. Create the
No,
pause.
especially if you're dealing in that kind of situation in an interview or um, something along those lines. They're just shooting it
Sometimes
out
it's with
there.
sometimes it's with
And
people that you work with, sometimes it's with relatives.
exactly.
It can be in any
I've
situation.
seen parents screaming at their kids, asking them a question, and
Mhm,
before the child even has time to understand what was being asked, they've done
mhm.
moved on to two other topics that they're still
Yeah.
screaming at them about. And it's
Uh-huh.
like, well, first, let's bring the tone down.
Right.
You don't need to scream. I mean,
Uh-huh.
maybe an initial scream to prevent somebody from getting hurt.
Mhm,
Stop, don't do
mhm,
that type of thing. But then you got to bring that down and start talking in a more measured,
mhm,
level way so that the other person has a chance to actually hear what you're saying
mhm, mhm,
and formulate an answer for you. Because
mhm.
um,
Well, I would
I
say
I
that
know a
that
lot of
person
people mistakenly think that if you just answer off the cuff without thinking, that's a more accurate answer, and it's usually not.
mm,
It's usually a self-defense mechanism, and you're going to
yeah.
say whatever you think is going to shut them up,
Uh-huh.
as opposed to taking that 3 seconds and then saying, "Well, wait a minute, let me." let me
Right.
get my
Right.
thoughts together on this so I
Mhm.
can answer you properly.
Mhm. Usually
And
this is a person who is trying to control, and they may have a personality disorder, but when you slow them down, you are in control of the conversation, or they will stop
right,
talking, or they will stop talking to you. I'm
right,
talking about when you're dealing with difficult people.
right. I'm gonna put up the I statement um,
Okay. All right.
thing here. So,
Uh-huh.
and this can just give you an idea
Mhm.
of some of the things like it's saying in here where it's,
Mhm.
where you're blaming someone, you can't keep coming home so late. It's inconsiderate.
Mhm.
As opposed to a better way of stating it of saying, I feel worried when you come home late. I can't sleep until you're home.
Which
It's because
uh-huh.
then you're not blaming them, but you're letting
Uh-huh.
them know that you're upset and worried and you can't go to sleep until you know they're
Yes.
safe.
Uh-huh.
I think that's where a lot of parents miss the boat with
Uh-huh.
teenagers.
Uh-huh.
Once they kind of get their autonomy and they're going out,
Uh-huh.
hanging with friends or on dates or whatever,
Yeah.
um, it's getting them to understand, pick up the phone and give me a call and let me know if you're going to be late. Or let
Yes.
me know if there's a situation and you don't know how to handle it and you want to get out of there and you don't know how. Pick up the phone
Uh-huh.
and call me. I'll come get you.
Right.
Um, but instead of blaming them, it's rephrasing that statement using as this worksheet shows the I statement. I
Mhm.
feel worried. I feel hurt. Um,
Mhm.
I feel inconvenienced. I feel
Mhm.
disrespected. It's you're
Mhm.
changing it around to how you feel when that person does that.
Uh-huh.
And that
Right.
gives them a chance to then not be in defensive mode, but to be able to
Mhm.
go, oh, I never meant to hurt your feelings, or I
Mhm.
never meant to worry you.
Mhm.
Most kids don't mean to worry their parents sick if they
Right.
something happens and they're late coming home.
Right.
Um, and nowadays, with the fact that everybody's got a freaking phone in their pocket or in their hand, most likely, there's no
Mhm.
excuse for not being able to
Mhm.
contact whoever's waiting for you to let them know
Mhm.
there's a train running and I'm stuck here at the tracks until it passes.
Right.
If you're in the South, you know what I mean by that because some of those trains can last freaking forever, it feels like, and you're stuck
Mhm.
10,
Mhm.
15, 20. I've sat at a railroad track unable to back away and turn around because of cars piled up behind me
Mhm.
for 30, 45 minutes.
Yep.
And you're just stuck and you can't do anything. You can't go
Mhm.
anywhere.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, there was a time when you also couldn't have called home and let anybody know what was going on.
Right.
But nowadays, there's no excuse of not being able to pick up the phone and
Mhm.
call home and say, hey,
Mhm.
there's a train and I'm stuck behind it. I'll be there as soon as I can.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then everybody knows it's not you being inconsiderate. It's
Mhm.
you being in a situation that you have no control over.
Mhm.
So just bear with me a minute.
Right.
It's going to be okay.
Mhm.
Um,
But that first example that you gave, the blaming, um,
yeah,
it not only increases it increases our ability to check in with ourselves emotionally, because
yeah,
usually the scenario is the person is pacing, worried, afraid, but time the person steps in the door, they jump on them and get angry, which is totally different from what they were feeling before. So,
right.
and I think when we check in with ourselves, we start to be we can say, I was afraid, I was worried, uh because you didn't come home on time. I didn't know what was going on. Then that Because think how confusing it is when a person just jumps on you because you're maybe 15 minutes late, 30 minutes late. It's about us tapping into what we're feeling and what we're thinking as well.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. Um, there's hi Kiba. Unless you forget your cell phone, yeah, Elaine, that
Yeah.
happens too. But
Yeah.
um, I mean, I can remember back in the day, you know, breaking down on the side of the road before there were phones in everybody's pockets, where
Right.
you go knock on some stranger's door to say, "Can I borrow your phone? I broke down. I need
Mhm.
to call home and let them know what's
Mhm.
going on." You know,
Mhm.
or I need to call a tow truck or whatever. And
Right.
most people back in the day, they would have happily opened the door to you to come in and use their telephone.
Mhm.
Um, in today's world, that probably wouldn't be a very smart thing to do.
Right.
And most people, after a certain time frame, most people had cordless phones, and they would just go get their phone and bring it out to the porch for you and let you make your call,
Yes.
um, or write the number down and call for you. There have been times when I've received a phone call from some total stranger that said, "Your son is here. There's an issue with their car. They're stuck.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
They'll be home as soon as they can." And I'll be like,
Mhm.
"Thank you very much. Where are they located?"
Mhm.
So if I need to go get them, I know where to go because I have no way of calling them back at that point, you
Yeah.
know? Um, but that's just something that a lot of people don't think about, I think, nowadays
Mhm.
is communicating what's going on. It's
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
have a habit, and it was my late husband that created the habit for me of I'm always telling everybody when I leave the house, I'm telling them what I'm doing and where I'm going.
Mhm.
And I should be
Mhm.
home in X amount of time so
Uh-huh.
that they don't worry.
Mhm.
I'm still trying to break my brother of the habit of just leaving. And then I don't know if he's
Yes.
gone for 5 minutes
Mhm.
around the corner or
Mhm.
5 hours because he's going to somebody's house.
Right.
And so then I start worrying after an hour or two,
Yeah.
thinking,
Mhm.
is he okay? Is something
Mhm.
going on I should be aware of?
Mhm.
And so now when I see him heading for the door, that's the first thing I do is I shout out, "Where are you going?" And he'll say,
Uh-huh.
"Where?" I'll say, "Oh,
Uh-huh.
you gonna be long?" "Oh no, I'm just gonna be 30 minutes and I'll be back." Or, "Yeah, we're going for the afternoon, we're going to eat lunch," whatever. And
Uh-huh.
then I know kind of what to expect.
Uh-huh.
It's a common courtesy. I know my nephew asked me one time why I was being so nosy. I said, "I'm not being,"
That's what I was thinking, Sherry. I
which is
wasn't
a
thinking you were being,
typical, no,
but
which
people,
is typical for a 15, 16-year-old to say, but most adults
right.
think it too. And I had to tell him, I said, "I don't mean to be nosy." I said, "I'm
Mhm.
just want to know so I don't worry.
Uh-huh.
If I know you're going to be at
Mhm.
work or at the movies or at a friend's or at your
Uh-huh.
mother's or whatever, then I'm not going to worry about your safety. I know you're
Right.
somewhere where you're safe."
Right.
As opposed to you walk out the door and I don't know where you are. I don't know when you're coming back. And
That's a great
it's
example.
common courtesy. It,
It is. It's common courtesy. But some people in their head, why are you always in my business? Why do you always want to know everything?
right,
And I think that's a part of like you explaining this common courtesy so that if that we know where you were so that we can expect when you're back. I think that's something. Well, I I there was a therapist one time, and I was telling her how my sister always seems to ask where I'm going and this and that and the other. And she said she's just concerned because, I didn't think of it that way. She's just concerned. And it's
yeah,
probably a part of her instinct, and you should just allow it. And then when I just let it go, it wasn't a big deal. I started doing the same thing that you were doing. I'm
right,
I'm going out. I'll be back at so time or whatever. And right now I do that because I feel more comfortable when I let someone know where I'm at, where I'm
right,
going.
exactly.
That
Um,
makes me feel safer.
and when you live alone, you get real used to not checking in with people. And then when
Yes.
you go back to living with a roommate or with family or whatever,
Yeah.
it's a hard habit to break to stop and let them know
Mhm.
where you're
Mhm.
going, what you're doing.
Mhm.
because most of the time, a lot of times in the beginning, I would get the feedback of, so why are you telling me? Yeah. So if there's an emergency and I need you, you know where I'm at and how to find me,
Exactly,
Um,
exactly.
on this sheet here, as you can see where my little arrows roaming around, there's some examples up here near the top.
Mhm.
And then there's some practice statements you can do just for yourself. Look
Mhm.
in the mirror and do it, whatever.
Mhm.
Get
Yes.
somebody to practice it with you. Um,
Mhm.
it's very simplified steps, but it's steps that
Mhm.
can maybe prevent a blowout from happening at home or at work,
Mhm. Mhm.
that kind of thing.
Mhm.
That way, people don't feel like they're being taken advantage of, I guess, is
Right.
how it's always made me feel,
Mhm.
especially in the workforce.
Mhm.
Someone to say, I'll be back, and then they leave. You don't know where they've gone, how long they'll be. Are
Mhm.
they coming back? Do they have appointments that
Mhm.
day? Do I tell their appointments? Oh, they had to leave for the day. They won't be back. Or have a
Mhm.
seat. They'll be here shortly. That kind of thing. So
Mhm.
it's slowly breaking my boss in on this. So
Uh-huh.
normally
Uh,
he's pretty good about it, but he'll just come walk, 10 steps down the hall and he'll poke his head in my door and say, I'm going for the afternoon. I'll be like, oh, okay. And then if a student comes in looking for him, I can
right.
say, well, he left for the afternoon, but he'll be back tomorrow.
Right.
That
Right.
way we don't have students hanging out for an hour or 2
Mhm.
hours waiting for,
Right.
their professor to come back that's not coming back that day.
Right.
And they don't
Yes.
always remember to put a note on the door saying out of the
Right.
office for the afternoon.
Right.
Most of them have gotten better at emailing either myself or one of the other secretaries if something's come up
Mhm.
and they're not going to be in that day to say, would you put a
Mhm.
note on my door? Unforeseen
Mhm.
circumstances, and I'll not be there today. And that way, you don't have students sitting and waiting outside your door for you to show up
Mhm.
to do their schedule or do some
Mhm.
advising or deal with an issue with a class that you're teaching them or something. And so, again, it comes down to that common courtesy
Mhm.
because when you
Share
let, go ahead.
I've worked in places where people would or you'd come to work on Monday and they weren't there. Like, where's Joe? Oh, he's
Yeah,
on vacation. I mean, like, people should know, people that you work with, they should know. And
yeah,
I still do that. I'm gonna be out on Wednesday or whatever. I'll be at a doctor's appointment in the morning. I'll be in at this time. I don't think people realize how unprofessional an
it
office
is when you
looks.
don't. Yeah,
If somebody walks in and says, "Where's Isaac?" He's not in his office? I don't
well, I don't
know.
know where he is. Yeah,
That's not a good look. It's not a good
no,
look.
it's
And
unprofessional look. Yeah,
it's not professional at all. And some people will, it's like they seem like they don't want you to know that they're not gonna be at work.
yeah.
And something always happens. Somebody always comes to look
Shows
for
up. They may not ask for that person all semester, but you let them cut out for an afternoon, and somebody's going to come looking for him that day. It never
Right.
fails.
And if you can
It's
say,
like I
"Oh."
have a habit.
Uh-huh.
I will email like the day before. I'll
Yes.
send a group email to all the faculty and staff in our department and say, "Hey, just a quick reminder, I will not be in the office for whatever day, tomorrow or the next 2 days, whatever.
Mhm.
But I'll be back on such and such a date."
Yes.
And then that way they're not waiting for me to respond to an email
Right.
that I'm not going to see for 2 days, or
Right. Right.
they know to contact one of the other staff to
Mhm.
to help them with something.
Mhm.
Um,
But
yeah, I
that's
mean,
because you're taking responsibility for yourself and you're being
right,
accountable. And it
right.
amazes me how some people will not do that. It
No,
it makes the I don't know, it just makes the whole operation look thrown together. when they
Yeah.
don't do it.
I like what Elaine said.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you have to work overtime, and the boss is not very obliging about letting people call their family to
Mm-hmm.
let them know you might be a couple of hours late. See, that to me is a very close minded boss,
Controlling.
because your world is not just him or her and the office, or the building, whatever it is, whatever the atmosphere is you work.
Uh-huh.
You have a family at home waiting on you. They know you're supposed to get off at 5 o'clock. It takes you 10
Right.
minutes to get
Mm-hmm.
there.
Mm-hmm.
6 o'clock rolls around, they're calling the police department wanting to know there's been
Right.
an accident.
Right.
You know, and that's again that's being inconsiderate of not
Mm-hmm.
letting people know, hey, I've been asked to work over. I'm going to probably
Right.
be a couple more hours. That's all you got to
Right.
tell
Right.
them. And then they don't worry, and you can focus on what you're
Mm-hmm.
doing and not be focused in your head of, are they freaking out about now because I'm not home and I haven't been able to call?
Mm-hmm. But you
So
know one thing, that's to me, that's an opportunity for communication. But it depends on the person that you're working with, and
yeah,
if they can hear, if they're willing to hear feedback. You can say, we worked late last week on Tuesday, and my family was so upset with me because I didn't call them. Is there a reason you don't want us to call our family? I would ask the question,
yeah,
because it really,
exactly.
it causes me problems. But if we're going to work late, is there any way you can let us know well in advance?
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
At least
But
give us a heads up that we might have to stay late today, so I
right,
can let my family know.
right.
I
Because
can
some
shoot them
people
an
when
email, or
Mhm.
send them a text, whatever.
It just
Um,
depends on the personality of the person, though.
yeah. I like what Colorado hippie hiker says.
Mhm.
Accountability is lacking for several generations. Yeah, we have a couple generations worth now
Mhm.
of younger people that they've never even been taught the common courtesy of being polite, of having good manners, of being
Mhm.
considerate, of being
Mhm.
accountable for their actions. They walk through the door and they expect to be sitting at the top of the pile, and that they can do whatever they want to do. And it's like, no, it doesn't work that way. You got to work your way up from under the pile to on the pile, and then maybe
Mhm.
eventually you'll get to the top of the pile.
Uh-huh.
But you have to earn those stripes.
Mhm.
You don't come in right away and get named general. Uh, You got to start out as the grunt worker. I handle a group of student aid workers that's through financial aid, through
Mhm.
the study work program at the
Mhm.
university. They come in, they work for minimum wage. They can only work 10 hours a week, so it's not like they're putting in a whole lot of time.
Uh-huh.
And I tell all of them, your number one job is school. First and foremost is to
Mhm.
do your schoolwork,
Right.
and school is your number one job.
Mhm.
This is just putting a little bit of cash in your pocket to
Mhm.
help you out as the
Mhm.
semester progresses. And it's like I tell all of them, if you're not going to make it into work that day, if you're scheduled to come in for an hour, 2 hours, whatever, my cell phone is on the piece of paper that I sent you. Call me, text me, email
Mhm.
me, whatever, and just say, Miss Sherry, I'm really sick today, or Miss Sherry, my professor in such and such a class has us doing something after class, and I'm not going to make it.
Mhm.
I said, I'm fairly easy to get along with and pretty flexible about stuff,
Mhm.
but that way I'm not worried about where you are, what's happened, if I know you're not coming. And if you're not feeling well, then I know, well, they may not show up for a couple of days if they're out sick. Um, and Elaine's got some good ones today. Yeah. Um, and that's yeah, I mean, there are days when it's just the other day at work, I was in the middle of working on some stuff, and my printer just decided to turn off and didn't want to turn back on.
Mm.
I did every trick that I knew to try. It's an old printer.
Uh-huh.
I use it because it's better than the new printers in the
Mm-hmm.
office. It's an old brother. It's not an HP, which are crap.
Mm-hmm.
But personal opinion only, YouTube. But it does a lot more functions than a lot of the newer ones do
Uh-huh.
because it's an old school printer
Mm-hmm.
that went back when people printed all different kinds of stuff and they didn't have,
Mm-hmm.
custom printing shop on campus to go and do it for them or something.
Mm-hmm.
And so I hang on to it because I can do special events on it if I have to.
Mm-hmm.
But it just decided to, okay, I'm done for the day. And
Mm-hmm.
it just turned off by itself. It's like, and I tried everything I could think of.
Uh-huh.
And it was, thankfully, it was towards like the last hour of the day. So it didn't throw me that far behind.
Mm-hmm.
And the next morning I got in, it still was off and I couldn't get it to come
Wow.
back on.
Mm-hmm.
I finally had to call one of my IT guys and say, hey,
Mm-hmm.
this damn printer is screwing around with me again. And it took him a good probably 20, 30 minutes of trying all the tricks that I had already tried and it wasn't working. And
Mm-hmm.
then he thought of something that I hadn't thought of doing a certain step, and he started and it fired right up.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And for whatever reason, something kicked the printer, it turned off automatically.
Mm-hmm.
And because we weren't doing one little step, it wouldn't come back
Oh,
on.
okay.
It was like you had to pull the paper tray all the way out so
Mm-hmm.
that nothing triggering it that there's something in there to be printed,
Mm-hmm.
and then hit the on button and it turned
Mm-hmm.
right on, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Um, and then you put the paper tray back in.
Mm-hmm.
Now I've had other printers that you have to make sure the printer tray's in it or it won't start. So
Oh, okay. Yeah.
who knows? I mean, and this one comes up with something new every time it acts wacky.
Mm-hmm.
Some new step we have to add to the mumbo jumbo of getting it up and running
Mm-hmm.
again.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't do it that often, so it's good enough that it's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I can deal with this. It's
Uh-huh.
just one afternoon, but um, so I mean, and I'm sure there are things at home as well that
Mm-hmm.
uh, you have people that will wait to the last minute to go wash dishes
Uh-huh.
or to go fix something to eat for the family because everybody's hungry,
Mm-hmm.
or to go do laundry. I know my brother and my son both will wait until they have no clean clothes left at all before they go do their laundry. And so then it
Uh-huh.
takes them like all flipping day long to do laundry.
Uh-huh.
And because I quit doing it for them years ago, said, you know
Uh-huh.
what? Y'all don't
Yeah.
pay me enough money to do your damn. You're grown men. You can do your own damn laundry.
That's
Um,
true.
I mean, once in a while, I might throw something of theirs in with mine to make a full
Uh-huh.
load.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, no, it's like y'all do
Uh-huh.
your own stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, I'm more than happy to help them if they ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
you're not going to dump that on me and expect me to do it. That's not
Mm-hmm.
happening.
Mm-hmm.
Um, again, being considerate, of other people's time.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I mean, we run into little glitches. Even at home, we run into glitches. I came home from work the other day. I was hot and sweaty and tired, and all I could think about was taking a shower. And
Mm-hmm.
I got home to discover we had no water.
Wow.
I'm like, what do you mean we have no water? My son said, yeah, that somebody hit the main water line coming into our building, and they had to shut
Wow.
it off at the
Mm-hmm.
source so they could repair it. And they've been
Mm-hmm.
working on it all day. We don't know when it's coming back on. It didn't come back on until like almost 9 o'clock that night. And so I don't know if y'all can hear that thunder, but wow.
Oh, it's thunder in there?
I
Did,
just had a thunder roll that just lasted like
I didn't hear
30
anything.
seconds. And
Oh, okay. I didn't hear it.
but yeah, we got what looks like a nice little afternoon thunder bumper rolling in.
Okay. Okay.
I like what Hippie Hiker says. Most of them, because we are in the South, are fairly good about Miss Sherry or one of the faculty, Mr. So and so, or Professor so and so. I'm the one that has a hard time with names. Names escape me. I can know you for 2 freaking years and I'll still look at you. I know your face. I recognize you instantly. The name is nowhere to be found in my memory bank. I call everybody honey, sugar, darling, sweetie, boo. I mean, all these different clarifications. And usually when it's somebody new that starts and I say something like that and they'll get this shocked look on their face. She called me honey, and I'll hear other people say she calls everybody that. It doesn't mean anything. Can't remember your name. Your new name is honey. And tomorrow it might be sweetie. And the day after that, it might be darling. So just roll with it, And I have a lot of faculty and students that come from the Europe and the Middle East and Asia and China.
Yeah.
In,
And so they're trying to
countries like
interpret.
that where
Yeah.
you don't use terms of endearment unless
Yeah.
there's an established relationship, and you certainly
Right.
don't use it in public.
Right.
So it took some of them a little while to get used to me calling you honey or darling or, boo, which is real common down here because of the French, Boo means sweetie or darling. Or Chabé, which means, my baby is what it translates to. But a lot of people just say that because it just kind of rolls off the tongue. And I'll tell my new students when they come in, I'm sorry, my phone decided to ring. I'll tell my new students when they're coming in, you're telling me your name now. I know your face. I'll know you the next time I see you. Your name will not be there.
Yeah.
So I may call you darling, sweetie, honey, boo, and I'll give out the list of all the different acronyms that I use for names. And I said, so if I call you that, don't take it personal. It's just because your name is out the window and left the building. I don't remember it,
It's not
and
in the
most of them
Rolodex.
think it's cute. So at least I've got that going for me. Most of them think it's funny. I've had a few of them look at me kind of weird, especially faculty in the beginning because they're not quite sure how to take it. And I'll hear other faculty go up to them and say, no, she calls everybody that. It's okay. But that's my communication problem because I just don't remember names. Faces I've got. Names I don't. When I worked in the medical field, everybody had, at the clinic where I worked, everybody was assigned a number. And it was just easier for filing means and whatnot. And somebody would walk in the door. I would see them. I knew them. I recognized their face, their name. I could have told you their number was right there. I could tell you their file number and go right to it and pull it. And they'd be like, how do you know that? I said, I don't know. Numbers like that will stick with me, and I can't add and subtract for nothing.
Oh, okay.
But I can remember numbers, so just my brain's weird. Just one of those things,
Yeah. That's cool.
Lunar Love and Light. It's called Southern Charm.
Yeah.
That's probably why I get away with it because when I do it, I tend to deepen the accent just a little bit. And I don't even realize I'm doing it. I've had other people point it out to me. You realize you sound more Southern when you do that. I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, your accent deepens into a more Southern accent. And I'm like, no. And then people are like, yeah, we hear you all the time. That's what happens. And so it's an unconscious thing I'm not even aware that I'm doing. But hi, Debbie, and I already said hello to Lunar. So yeah, well, I spent half of my childhood in Texas, Lunar, so don't feel bad. Um,
Mm.
I've spent my whole life up and down the Gulf Coast, from Texas to Florida and back again,
Okay.
back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Um, except for a 10-year sprint when I lived in Phoenix,
Mm-hmm.
just because I'd never been out west before and thought, I've never
Mm-hmm.
seen the mountains, I've never seen the
Mm-hmm.
desert. Let's somewhere new. Let's give it a shot.
Yeah.
It wasn't so bad except for the heat.
Mm-hmm.
The heat, the summertime is killer. It's like, oh my God.
I know.
And but okay, I've rambled on long enough. You have any other
I don't. I
stuff
really don't
that you
have.
can do with that?
Just I would just
Or
encourage
do y'all have
everyone.
any questions about it of how you can,
Yes.
that's probably more important, is do
Right.
y'all have any questions about, what little tip or trick that you can use to help you with
Yes.
being more effective in your communication, or are there things that you've done that seem to have worked really
Right.
well that you can
Mm-hmm.
share?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, oh, Elaine, I'm glad to know somebody else has the name problem, not just me. Um, oh, y'all, excuse me. Uh, so give y'all a minute or two to think about it.
Yeah.
Type it in.
The most
Now
important thing is.
the two worksheets that I showed you that Isaac had sent me. Like I said, tomorrow I will scan them so that I can add them to the description box. That way,
Good.
if you want to print them out or just download them, you can.
Good.
Um, so I'll try to get that done in the morning so it'll be available by the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it'll depend on how much stuff I get hit with when I get there in the morning. So,
Mm-hmm.
because it's the first day of classes, so
Oh wow.
we'll have to wait and see how that goes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's gonna be busy.
Oh wow, it's pouring rain outside. Okay.
Is it?
I'm sitting there thinking, what's that sound? It took a minute. And then the thunder's getting louder and longer. I'm listening. I'm
Uh-huh.
like, sounds like rain. Yeah, that's what it
Mm-hmm.
is.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I moved everything on the patio up against the wall. We should be good.
Good.
And the kittens are safe. They're under their table under the tarp. So
Oh,
no
good.
worries about them getting washed out into the drain again.
Yeah.
We had a stray cat that had kittens
Mm-hmm.
next to the patio, big bush.
Mm-hmm.
They just turned 3 weeks old on Thursday. Um, and about a week after she had them, one day my son went out there because we were all going out there and sticking our head in the bushes to check on her and the babies. And my son went and looked and they weren't there. So he thought that maybe the complex had called, animal control or something to come and
Mm-hmm.
get them, or that somebody came and scooped them up and took them.
Mm-hmm.
And several days went by, and we had a really bad thunderstorm that hit one night. And in the house, the doors and windows are shut, and we can hear some of the loudest mewing I've ever heard.
Mm-hmm.
And my son comes out of his room. He says, "Do you hear cats mewing?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And we go outside, and it stopped raining. The one of the boys and his girlfriend upstairs, they heard it too, and they were all the way upstairs. And they were coming down the stairs to see what cat was that.
Mm-hmm.
And we discovered two of the kittens down in the bush where Mama used to keep them, but they were buried in mud because that's where the gutter dumps out from the
Oh.
rooftop, is into that bush. They were drowning in the mud.
Mm.
And the little girl, the young lady, was the smallest between us, and she went crawled up into the muddy bush to rescue them and hand them
Oh.
out to me and my son.
Mm.
So we took them. We took a little box with a towel. We put them there, but they would be. We
Mhm.
could dry them up and get them warm. We knew there were 5 kittens. We only found 2. We were like, "Oh my God, where are the other 3?" And the mama cat, we could see her pacing everywhere up and down the sidewalk. She knew we had 2, so she was like, "Okay, they're good." And she was still looking. Well, the next morning when we got up and went outside, all 5 kittens are in the box.
Oh, wow.
And so we're like, okay, well, I don't know where the other 3 were, but she did, and she brought them to us.
Mhm.
Well, 2 of them were with a neighbor across the parking lot from us. Our buildings face each other. She works at a shelter, and she heard mewling and went outside after the rain was starting to slow down
Mhm.
and saw 2 kittens being swept along heading for the drain. And
Wow.
she ran out and grabbed them and saved them from getting sucked down into the drain
Mm.
and brought them in the house to clean them up, dry them off. Their eyes weren't even open yet. That's how
Oh,
little they
wow.
were.
Wow.
And uh, so she put them in a box and put them out on her patio. And the next morning when she got up, they were gone. And so she was like hoping that it wasn't a predator that got them, that it was just the mama cat that got them.
Mhm.
And I don't know where the 5th one was, but evidently mommy knew where they were because she got him too.
Mm.
And she brought them all to us and put them on our patio for whatever reason. And so the lady from across the way, she came over, met my son. They got to talking, and she said, well, hang on to them for another 3 to 4 weeks. And then they'll be old enough to bring to the shelter
Mhm.
so that they can be fostered out and rehomed.
Mhm.
And um, and then she brought us like a big canister of kitten baby formula. It's powder form, like for babies, but it's for kittens, with a
Mm.
jug of Pedialyte to mix with it, and a
Mhm.
little bitty nursing bottle designed for cats and dogs. And she said, this way, if mama cuts them off, y'all can still feed them before they're big enough to eat regular food.
Mhm.
And but mama hasn't left them, and so we had them in the box. And then uh, my brother decided, well, let's put them somewhere safer. We've got a big long table at one end of the patio. So we cleared out a space under the table, then put a tarp over it
Mhm.
so it hangs down on 2
Mhm.
sides and then the walls on the back on the other
Mhm.
2 sides of the walls.
Mhm.
And put an old towel down in there and everything. And mama and kittens moved in, and they seem to be perfectly fine. She When one of us goes to sit on the patio, that's when she'll come out and go traipsing off. It's like
Mhm.
she's waiting for the babysitter to get there. We're there. Okay, and she'll take off. She won't let us touch her. She will
Okay.
not get close enough for us to touch her. She's still very feral.
Okay.
But the kittens, we are all taking turns cuddling and holding them and
Mhm.
talking to them, and their eyes are open now, and they're
Oh.
all over the damn place. The other night, I was chasing kittens on the patio, trying to get them all back up under the table. And the mama cat was just sitting there watching me with this look on her face like, knock yourself out. You know, like, and finally I sat down and I was like, y'all are making me exhausted. And when I quit doing it, that's when she got up and started grabbing them one at a time and bringing them back up under the table. She was like, let this crazy lady do her thing and then I'll do it
Yeah.
and take care of it. And
Yeah.
so that's where they sit under the table. So at least I know that they're not stuck in another rainstorm.
That's true.
They're in good safe
Nice
spots. So,
that's a nice
uh,
story.
and
Well,
one of the kids that lives above us, he's also works on the maintenance team here at the complex. So I'm sure they
mhm.
know about the kittens
Okay.
and that we're just kind of providing a sheltered space until we can get them to the shelter. And
Mhm.
then the lady across the way is like, when you're ready, when it's time to bring them, y'all can bring them to our shelter. We'll,
Mm,
take care of them. And so we're like, okay,
that's
cool.
good. That's good.
And but we've come home to find cat food, can and dry, and
Mhm.
treats sitting on the patio.
Mhm.
Neighbors are bringing us stuff to feed the kittens and to feed the
Oh.
cat. So um, Mama Cat's probably eating better than she's ever eaten in her life. 'Cause
Mhm.
she's getting dry food and wet food daily,
Uh-huh.
So she's kind of digging out on that. She still
Mhm.
won't let us touch her though. So I'm hoping maybe we'll get to the point she'll let us pet her and handle her. Maybe we can get her
Mhm.
put in the thing with the kittens and
Yeah.
get her fostered out too. So
Yeah.
we'll have to wait and see.
Mhm. Hopefully
But
it'll
they
work
are
out.
adorable, absolutely
Mhm.
adorable. She's a calico.
Okay.
Two of them are tuxedo, black and white. One
Mhm.
is a solid black, one is a gray striped tabby, and one is kind of a black and gray
Okay.
color. And
Oh.
so, very, one of them has a face, half of it's black and half of it's white.
Mhm.
It's like right down the middle of his face, it's just half and half. It's like, okay, that's kind of cool. And
Mhm.
you don't see a lot of cats with that. But
Right.
so yeah, they they're very loud. When those kittens start meowing because they're hungry, oh my God, you can hear them on the other side of the apartment building. Um, they're very loud. So, and the
Mhm.
dogs, of course, are just infatuated and
Mhm.
terrified at the same time. But anyway, enough about the cats. Is there anything else you want to add? I'm talked
Mm.
out.
Just
And
keep the lines of communication open. That's the way we learn.
yeah,
Mhm. That's what I
I'm
would
just
say.
looking to see. Nobody put any questions in. So
Okay.
if y'all don't have any questions, Isaac and I are going to be racking our brains trying to come up with a couple of topics for y'all to pick from next weekend for the next show, which
Mhm.
will be on the 8th of September. So I will post on the I'll put something up next weekend, this coming weekend, for y'all to vote on. And whichever topic gets the most votes, that's the topic we'll talk about for the next
Mhm.
show.
Yeah.
And our goal is to try to just touch on different topics, give
Mhm.
y'all some tools for the toolbox to know how to handle things,
Mhm.
and uh, uh, provide you with information if you think you need
Mhm.
more help than us just covering basics. So
Yes. Mhm.
uh, we do try to do that as well, at least give you
Mhm.
an idea of where to turn or what to ask.
Yes. Mhm.
And because it benefits everybody if we can keep our mental health
Yes.
healthy, as
Mhm.
opposed to some of the wackos in this world that want to scream and shout and holler the world's on fire all the time.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
no,
Mhm.
it may be getting close to boiling, but it's not on fire yet. So, or not all of it anyway. But
That's true.
anyhow, do you have anything? Are you going to be a guest on anybody's show between now and the next episode? Or
No. Mm-mm.
okay, I
This
never
is
know.
my
Once in a while, you pop up somewhere, so it's like,
this is my gig with you. Yeah.
Isaac's my one and only. I swear. EQ and Sonia introduced us, and it just the
Yeah.
light bulb clicked. I think for both of us, like, oh, this is my new best friend. So,
Oh, look, something on handling stress
stress as
as
a
a
parent,
parent.
single parent. That is an
Oh, let's do
excellent
that. Let's do that.
idea.
Let's do that. Let's do
Let's
that.
do that one next week. Let me write this down. Let's see.
I would love to do that
That is a good one. Um,
next week.
week after next.
That's great. That
Yeah, on
week
the
after, yeah, next show.
yeah, yeah. We do this on the second and fourth Sunday of the month, guys. So that would be September 8th will be the next show. And uh,
Oh, thank you. That made it easy.
I'm telling you. And God, if those aren't the years that make you crazy. um, yeah, I mean, we could hit all different stages
Mm-hmm.
of childhood there with,
Yeah.
uh, let's see, maybe touch on, okay,
Okay.
with
You see the next
special
one?
needs. Yeah,
You see the next one?
needs.
Desiree, handling broken heart with dementia parents.
Yeah. That could be the next topic after this
Yeah.
is how to deal with dementia, uh,
Mm-hmm.
folks with dementia. That would be what, on the 22nd. We could make that the show for the 22nd.
Okay.
And that's something I know firsthand all about. So,
Okay. Oh, yeah. You've talked about that.
yeah, my mother died from
Mm-hmm.
dementia. She had
Mm-hmm.
dementia.
Yeah, you
And
talked about that.
it's a, yeah, it's, that can make it tough. Hi,
Mm-hmm.
Desiree. Well, thank you for speaking up.
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
And Lunar for y'all. That's some good ideas y'all got. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, September shows are picked now.
Uh-huh. That's September
And
8th and September
22nd.
22nd. Thank you.
Those are really good topics. And
Yes.
I think Isaac and I had pretty much racked our brains dry. We were
Mm-hmm.
like, oh yeah, we got to come up with some new topics for out of things
Mm-hmm.
to pick from. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, autism. And we were just talking about that before backstage
Mm-hmm.
because of what happened with Gus Walls, the VP
Mm-hmm.
nominee's son,
Mm-hmm.
and the way people on the other side of the spectrum
Mm-hmm.
and how they were trying to bully him.
Yes. Yes.
And it's like, I thought it was a fantastic response he had to his dad. And then when I found out he was a special needs kid and that
Mm-hmm.
he had suffered from a nonverbal form
Mm-hmm.
of a type of autism,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, whoa, this child
Mm-hmm.
stood up in front of 15,000 people in
Mm-hmm.
person and
Mm-hmm.
God knows how many millions of people on air to express the fact that he loved his dad,
Mm-hmm.
and was willing to shout and point, that's my dad. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that is like a major breakthrough when you're
Mm-hmm.
dealing with kids with that kind of autism.
Mm-hmm.
But, and like I was telling Isaac, I actually had family members, the cousins,
Mm-hmm.
that had autism from minor
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
total nonverbal violent form of
Mm-hmm.
autism.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so that's yeah, that's a good topic to cover
Mm-hmm.
as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
something we can both do some research on and put together.
Oh yeah.
And but well, thank y'all. We ran a little over. We normally try to keep this to an hour, but
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I get long winded and don't know when to shut up. Um, I get diarrhea of the mouth, as my mother used to tell me. Keep going.
Yeah. Well,
And
it's
Isaac's
good
so
that you
polite.
it,
He just lets me go on and on.
it's good that you did. That worked out. We got two shows.
Yeah, we
It
got two
worked. It
shows
worked.
lined up, y'all. So that's
You
fantastic.
can't get it wrong and you
Um,
can't get it done.
yeah, Elaine, that happens a lot, even coming from medical professionals because they don't understand the disease or I don't know if autism is considered a disease, but they don't understand the way it affects the person that has it, you know. Same could be said for ADHD kids. Just, I mean, growing up when I was a kid, we would just call them rambunctious or the class clown, or always having to make a spectacle about things, not realizing that it was an actual mental disorder that they can't control, that they act that way.
Right.
So those are some good topics. So if y'all have any other ideas for topics, like I said, after the show, go in and put it in the comments and we'll add them to the list.
Yes.
It took us, we started doing this, in January? So it took us all the way up until month 9 to run out of topics. So we had a pretty good list going there for a while.
We did.
And we'll go from here. So y'all had some good ones. And yeah, if you don't understand what a condition or a sickness or a disease is, then you probably shouldn't speak on it,
Right.
And doctor or no doctor. So to me, that makes for a bad doctor.
Yeah.
And well, y'all have a wonderful afternoon. Have a great week. Got a whole new week. Next weekend is Psychic Saving Democracy Marathon. There'll be Deborah Lupian. She channels Metatron and whatnot. And Helen, Irish Granny Tarot. They have put this together to raise money for the Harris Walls campaign.
Okay.
And so we're going, in shades of Jerry Lewis, we're going to do a marathon from 4 o'clock Eastern on Sunday afternoon to 4 o'clock Eastern on Monday afternoon, since it's Labor Day. And most people will be off. And Deborah's got a lot of us already up as far as seeing who's going to be appearing. Bye, sweetie. Be careful. Love you. There's she's already got one page up. She's got a website she created for it. There's already a donate button. Just hit that website, click the button, and boom, you can give. And if y'all know any readers who you think would be interested in coming on and doing a 30 or 45-minute block reading, or who, if they're not able to do so that weekend, if they would like to donate a reading or a deck of cards or something along those lines, let me know and I will get that information to Deborah. And we're going to do that next weekend. So, and I'll be on, I think most of my time slots are going to be between like midnight Eastern till about 5 a.m. Eastern, middle of the night, since I tend to be up late anyway. I told Deborah, well, I know that's the hardest time to fill in slots, so stick me in a couple of slots. And my son's doing a couple of musical pieces that I've got recorded, so she can put them in wherever. And he even offered to come on air with me live to play his guitar.
Okay.
And so we just can't do any covers because we don't want Deborah to get in trouble with YouTube for copyrighted materials. So only original music is the only thing he can play, stuff that he's written. But it ought to be fun. I'm looking forward to it. And like I said, if you know anybody that would be interested, or either to come on or to just donate, or if you want to donate something, let me know and I'll get the info to Deborah. And no problem at all. So, all right. Well, y'all have a great week and
Yes.
enjoy the beginning of the school year. I say that with a groan, or I get a headache every time I mention it. I literally get a headache every time I mention that. My head starts pounding because I know it's coming. Fall semester is the worst. It's usually the busiest.
Mm-hmm.
So thank y'all. Like I said, have a great weekend. Isaac, thank you again for joining me on this journey and
You're welcome, and thank you.
being my partner in this. That's important. So
Yes.
all right, y'all.